But yeah, welcome into today's webinar. My name is Ray Huang. I'm the head of marketing here at Canopy Connect, and I'm really excited about our integration here with Sembley. For the folks that are less familiar with Sembley, I mean, you guys are up and coming, I think, as far as a solution goes. I'm starting to see you guys everywhere. Sembley works together now with Canopy Connect to simplify that traditionally complex and time-consuming process of gathering information. And you guys are, streamlining the insurance submissions, mostly commercial, right? Um, Using Canopy Connect data, AI-powered document analysis, data enrichment, bringing all these cool technologies together to start to like automatically and systematically populate ACORD forms, supplemental forms, all that stuff. So this is great because Canopy Connect has been moving into, for folks that are less familiar, we've got a commercial offering. So we've long been known for being able to pull in a consumer's personal insurance information. But, for the last few years, we've been able to do that for commercial insurance as well. And that's been getting better. We've been getting deeper data and um, information coming into our system. And now we go, what are we going to do with this? Right? Where are we going to send it? Well, now we want to send to Sembley so you guys can quickly use that verified insurance data and start populating that into the various ACORD forms that you're going to need, which I know that whole landscape gets a little bit crazy. So with me today is Joe Ems. Joe is a commercial, is or was, I don't know, you're a licensed commercial insurance agent. You spent like 10 years with business owners, just trying to find the right policies, right coverage for business owners. Um, so he understands this, right? You know the pain of preparing accords and all the supplementals and all the other things that underwriters are going to be asking you for. Um, and so you kind of partnered up with your co-founder Jeremy in developing and building out what Sembley is today and constantly making it better. So I just want to introduce Joe. Joe, tell me a little bit more about about you and about Sembley and how that all came about.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thank you for the introduction there. So, as Ray said, I am Joe. So, I am one of the co-founders of Assembly. I came on and helped us you get off the ground here as kind of a domain expert, understanding exactly what the agents are going through when they are dealing with these Accord forms, the sub apps, the headaches of working with them. I always joke that this is like a passion project, but out of a passion of hate for dealing with Accord forms. I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way because they can really be a headache. What we have done here at Assembly is we've built this system that's going to allow you to populate and fill out multiple Accord forms, multiple sub apps all at the same time using one singular intake. Now, the system is built on what we call a single source of truth. So that means when you have questions that are going to be asked across multiple forms and multiple locations, we only need the answer once and it will populate that across all of your forms at the same time. Which, speaking of sub apps, I mean, you guys know that some of these sub apps, half of the questions you already answered on the Accord forms anyway. So it can really help to streamline that process. And then, as Ray mentioned, we have some of our enrichment tools, our AI tools, and our integrations that help us import that important data right into our intakes and onto our forms. And with this new partnership with Canopy Connect, I think it really takes it to a whole new level of being able to extract some of the fantastic data that they are pulling and getting that directly onto your apps, onto your intakes, just really getting you to get that filled out form to your carrier as fast as possible. So, that being said, we're very excited about this integration with Canopy Connect. You guys have been a staple in the insurtech industry for a long time. So we're really looking forward to working with you guys and getting everyone here to look at how this is going to work today.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So with that said, I want to just get right into it. Here's what we're going to see today. I'm going to run through just so we can level set with everyone. We've got people that are some Canopy Connect users, some are not Canopy Connect users, some Sembley users, some not Sembley users, and give everyone kind of a good overview and roundup of what we all do here especially as we've been rolling out a lot of new features, adding our commercial access that some of you guys maybe haven't seen or have had access to. So I'm going to run through kind of the how we get information from prospects, our verified information from prospects, what that kind of end user flow looks like. We'll go look at what the agent view is, what the data we're collecting, and uh, and then how we send it over to Assembly. Joe's going to take over from there and talk through all the great things you can do with this data in Assembly and what else, what other bells and whistles that Assembly can do as well. So with that said, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat. You can drop them into the Q&A section there at the bottom. That's kind of the best way to give us visibility in case the chat gets a little wild. We can always make sure that we track that down there. Um, but yeah, we encourage your questions and we are happy to answer those. We'll get to some of those as we go or at the end. So, what I've got here, this is the Canopy Connect link that you can send out to your prospects. This is a demo account that I'm sending out, but hey, let's say you've sent this out to your consumer because they've or to your to the business because they've requested a quote. You want to get the right information that you can from them. You send them this link. This you can send this via text, email, um, QR code, whatever, as long as they can get to this URL. In my case, it's Uncommon Insurance here. We'll hit continue. This is saying, hey, this is safe, secure. You're authorizing sharing your insurance information with us. This is your current insurance account. We're dealing with commercial today, so today we're going to jump to Liberty Mutual, but we've got a list of I think between commercial and personal, we're upwards of 350 or more insurance carriers. We're covering on the commercial side about 56% of the available carriers in the as far from like a market share perspective. Um, that of course um, requires that they should have a login to their insurance portal. Um, We've got other ways they can upload their deck pages and things like that as well. I'm going to put in some credentials here, but normally they would use their email or username and log in. Um, this is just a little, we'll hit that. Let's submit. Like I said, they can also upload their deck pages and things like that directly themselves. We click submit, and in just a handful of seconds, we're going through that process. We've already collected all the information you need. Now, one of the newer features with Canopy Connect is you can ask them subsequent follow-up questions, things like this. Do you opt in for texting? That's becoming really important now. You can ask them any other kind of custom questions that you want to ask at this stage, or you can skip this altogether and you'd already be, the consumer would already be done. So, yay, confetti. If they were written or they had multiple carriers, they can go hit this import another carrier, and that kind of just restarts them in the cycle and starts that process over again so they can connect to another carrier. Now, meanwhile, that was the sort of prospect end user approach. I'm going to pop over here into Canopy Connect, into our little submissions page here. So you see, this is 2 minutes ago. This is the one I submitted for Liberty Mutual. Again, this is the agent view. And yep, so you see what we've collected. We've got the name, email, contact information, some of the mailing information. Here's where it gets good, right? This is the policy types. Now, if you're familiar with Canopy Connect, um, on the personal line side, we're, able to get your homeowners, your auto, your toys, your RVs, all that stuff. On the commercial side, we can get workers' comp, BOPs, commercial auto, um, all that stuff, anything that's attached to that account. We can click on this and expand what shows up on a workers' comp account. We got policy ID, their premium, their effective dates, named insureds, address information, some of the limits here. And then we're going in here and we're also able to enrich any of the addresses that pop up. So we're enriching this with information from data aggregators that pull information, usually from county assessors. So you'll get some of their property characteristics, their building characteristics, some of the valuation information as well. So that's workers' comp. We're also getting this for BOP. It looks relatively similar. Everything's kind of structured as data versus, if you get a deck page, sometimes those are harder to decipher and they come in all sorts of formats. This gives you kind of a consistent view of everything. So you can review any of that policy information, pull in the driver information. We pull in all the loss events. So we know what's going on with the account. We know what losses there are, and you've got a head start on that. These are the custom questions down here that we ask. We only ask the opt-in question, but again, if you had other custom questions, you can roll them in here. Um, and then I'm going to skip this for a second. And then all the loss run summaries, deck pages, PDFs, documents that are associated with that account are also available right here. So you can just click on these and view those PDFs. Yeah, so that is a quick overview of the information that we're pulling in from Canopy Connect and that workflow. When we look at it from an integrations perspective, all we do for the assembly integration, once that's already kind of plumbed and hooked up, which is super simple. It's like 3 clicks to get that all set up. You'd select the policies you want to share over to Sembley. So I'm just going to hit select all and click send to Sembley. Now that's going to pop open Sembley, and I have an error because I'm not in a proper permissioned account. But you know who is Joe. So I'm gonna stop sharing here. This is the joys of working in a sandbox account. Um, but yeah, Joe can take over here and show you what that experience looks like from Assembly. Joe, you're on mute.
There we go. That would help. So thank you, Ray, for that. I mean, it's some great information that you guys are pulling in. As I
Sure.
said, you have all this data now. Where do we want to get it? Ideally onto those apps, right? So we from here can now select all of these policies, or we can select one. So I'm going to take a commercial auto here, and I'm going to send that back over into Assembly. And now we are pulling into Assembly. And from here, you can name this submission whatever you'd like. So let's call this one an auto. And then we will select what we would like to pull in and hit save. And now we're going to be brought to a screen where we're going to be able to choose the forms that we're going to need for this submission. So let's say we need a 125, a 126, a 127, of course, a 140, and then we'll even throw in a sup app as well. And now once we have all of our forms, we'll hit go to intake, and we'll be able to see now that we've pulled in the data that we have gotten from Canopy. So we'll see that we've pulled in some basic information here on that client, some of their contact data, and then even going further, we're able to do additional imports into Sembley. So let's look at our prior insurance policies. Of course, we pulled this policy over from Canopy, so we can hit this import button, hit import from Canopy Connect, and now we can look at the different policies that were made available to us. Click on those and hit import. And all of that data is going to pull directly into Assembly onto your intake, ending up on your form at the end of the day. Even going further, being that this was a commercial auto that we had imported, we will take a look at the vehicles and drivers. We will import our drivers over from Canopy, and we're going to have the one there and import that driver. We'll see all of their information is filled out here. And then we can do that again with the vehicle. So we will import the vehicle from that policy over. and we'll see everything that we need is going to be filled out here. So now we've imported what we need from Sembley. Our ACORD forms and our sub apps are partially filled out. Now, diving a little bit deeper into what Sembley can do from there. So we've created our intake, we've added in our ACORD forms, we added in our sub apps. Now from there, we can go and take a look at what gaps we need to fill. And on the agent side, you'll be able to either fill those out internally, typing those answers in yourself. You can also share those with your clients as well. And we have a couple of options on how you can do that. So after we create a contact here, we can now see that we'll have a shareable link that we can copy this link and send that out through email or text. The client's going to be able to click into there and immediately start working on the intake. There's a client portal invite for clients who prefer a password protected option. This will have them work through a secure portal. And then there is an email that you can send right through Sembley. We have some sample messaging here that we've already put in, but you have the ability to take that out and type in whatever you'd like. When you send the email through Sembley, it will show as if it's just coming from your email, so that will be familiar for the client. We also have customizable email signatures here that you can change, and then reminders that you can set up as well. So if I want to remind this client that every 3 days, if they don't get the intake back to us, to jump back in there, fill out that information, and get it over to us as soon as they can. And a couple of the other tools that we have, one being that we have our company enrichment tool. So if you were to click on these stars here, I'm not sure what I'm going to pull on Metropolis Bank, being that they're not a real company, but theoretically you should be able to pull some company data here. And then even down in the premises, if I was to type a premise in, oh, we did pull some on Metropolis Bank there, and you can import that data directly into the intake. Then if I was to type in an address here, we are able to pull some data on a property as well. So if I hit these 3 stars next to that address, we are going to pull this property data in that we can import onto the intake, ending up on our form at the end of the day. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can customize these intakes as well. One of those being that you're going to get to pick and choose the questions that you send over to your client. And there's really 2 methodologies that we have there. So one is kind of like cherry picking 5, 10, 15, 20 questions. Maybe in a situation where you're using Canopy and importing a decent amount of data, you could just use that to fill in the blanks. We call that flagging. So I can flag a handful of questions here for client review. And then when I go to share my intake, I'll make sure that I check off only share flagged questions, which is going to allow you to send over a condensed intake with just the questions that you've chose to send over. The other option is going to be sending over a more comprehensive intake, but hiding certain questions. So let's say, for example, we want to hide the question, how frequently do you expect this policy to be audited? Because you're probably never going to ask your client that. We can hide that question from the intake. And when you hide a question once, it will hide that on any future intakes that you work on, which allows you to build a template of the questions that you know you're going to answer your one sent out to your client. So add notes on the questions here to give your client some guidance on what they should fill out, and then save default responses. So let's say that we always bill annual. I can save that as a default response here, so that will pre-populate on any intake that I open. And after we have sent this out to our clients for them to fill in the blanks and answer a few questions, we can check into our invitations tab to see when that was sent to the client, when they opened it, when they worked on that. You can also reshare that as well through the same 3 options that we had looked at before. And then down here in the forms, once those answers are provided by you, the client, some of our AI tools, you'll see those answers populate right here into our forms. Obviously, we didn't fill out too much information, but if I jump to that 127 where we pulled in that driver data and that vehicle data, we'll see that we had that pull in here. I believe we have that vehicle right down here for us. Now, another way that you're able to import data into Sembley is using our document AI tool. So obviously, we're going to use Canopy Connect as an integration where we can pull a decent amount of data from there. But let's say that your client also supplies you with an SOV. What you can do is take that SOV, upload that into Sembley. Our AI is going to read through that and find any data on there that can be used within the intake and extract that data and populate that directly onto our intake, ending up on our forms. You can also when you're sending out your intakes to those clients. I'll give you a quick look at the client view of the intake. You can ask your client to upload any documents that they might have. So if you want to use this as a tool to request an SOV from a client, we'll jump into the client view of the intake, and the first page is going to be the document upload, where your client can upload their document and our AI will do its work from there. Then from there, the client can jump into the questions. And as you saw, this is one where I just hit a couple of questions instead of cherry pick a few. So we'll be able to see that we've pulled some data in here on that client, and they can fill in the blanks and answer questions where they need to. Things like multiple choice questions, if it's going to be a multiple choice on your ACORD or sub app, that'll be a multiple choice here. And then for certain things like drivers, vehicles, premises, we'll break them out into a spreadsheet for ease of use. And we've also built in tooltips that tell that client exactly what they need to fill out, and embedded multiple choice questions into that spreadsheet. And then for addresses, we'll break those out into their component parts. Now, this is also fully mobile compatible. I understand that we all have clients that are on the go pretty often these days. So you can send this to their phone, and when they answer those questions, they'll populate into your system real time. The other thing I always like to mention is that you can brand this intake with your company logo so it looks a little bit more white labeled. But once you are done there, you can go back into Sembley, and we can see that everything that has been answered by you and the client is going to populate into your forms, making that process a lot easier. And then you'll have your dashboard here where you can track and manage things, see the activity, see what was being worked on, what's been updated. You can see your submissions that are broken down by statuses. We even have customizable statuses. So you can move these submissions kind of along the assembly line as you go through. And I can move this from initiated to in progress to complete, sent to carrier. You can even add in your own statuses from there. So if I want to list this one as bound, I can do that and assign a color to it, and then even get those breakdowns in that dashboard. And when you do send out intakes to clients, you'll get notifications as they answer those questions. So you'll get a notification letting you know that's ready for review over here in our notification center, letting you know when they started that. You'll also be able to get an email letting you know when that client has submitted it back to you, and a pop-up right here, like this one that says review next to that submission. We also have custom intakes within Sembley as well, where you're able to create really whatever you'd like in terms of intakes. And the way that we've built these, you can even have the information gathered on these custom intakes flowing back into your ACORD forms and sub apps. And we have a library of intakes already created here, where you could take one of these, go through, pick and choose the questions you want to use or remove, and send them over to your client. And then you can also build them out from scratch if you have something a little more specific in mind. And we have a few ways you can add questions. You can add a custom question in here. We have a few different question types to choose from. You can build in conditional logic, where if I click on property, it will only ask the property questions. If I click property and auto, it'll ask the questions for both of those lines. And then you can use questions down here in our question bank. And these questions are pulled directly from various ACORD and supplemental forms. And the benefit of these is when you click add to intake, it's very easy. It'll just pull right in. But any of the info gathered here will actually flow through onto the ACORD forms and onto the sub apps. So if you have a workflow where you send out a fact finder to a new prospect, they answer the questions, the information gathered here will populate onto your ACORDs and sub apps. And you can share this through a shareable link. You can embed it into a website, or you can put it into an intake like we had done earlier. And then the information gathered is going to populate as a new client, as an inbound here, which you can start working on them from there. So that is kind of the workflow there with Sembley, and how you can start to simplify that process a little bit further, just from getting that great information you're gathering on Canopy onto your ACORD forms and onto your sub apps.
Awesome. Amazing. It seems like it's going to streamline so much work and back and forth, and just, the tedium, I guess, of trying to get all that. We've got a few questions that have come in. Some are for you, some are for me. Um, so we'll start with a few here. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Um, Suzanne asking, I think this is a question for me. Do your carriers for commercial insurance include those that are non-admitted markets? I think we're Canopy Connect's primarily for the admitted markets. And I think the other question that's come up a couple times is like, you know, some of your clients or prospects don't have online access to their commercial accounts. Um, that's true. Uh, The core way that Canopy Connect works does require that there be um, a a carrier access or carrier login. We have the ability to, or the consumer is the prospect has the ability to upload some documents and deck pages in lieu of that, so we can bypass that and you can ask them some questions. But I think when you have this integrated with Assembly, you could either do that through Canopy Connect and we'll parse it and populate it and all that stuff. But that may be better served, Joe, doing that within Assembly itself.
Yeah. So I think that you can simplify that workflow a bit in Assembly, being able to use our the document AI to request some of those documents over.
Yeah. So I think there's from a workflow, like you'll figure out your own workflow for these two tools um, working together. There is a bit of overlap, right? We both handle documents and data um, and intake. So like when you kind of read a surface level description, you're like, well, don't they kind of do the same thing? Yes, but different approaches. I like to think of you're getting their current snapshot of their insurance information through Canopy Connect, and that's going to help like their business information. A lot of that isn't going to change, so we can get that and shortcut that, get that into Assembly. And then there's kind of the second part of, well, now we need to prepare all the documents and all the things that we need to submit it to the carrier. And that's kind of a second step that is where Assembly shines, right? So we don't need to ask everything, right? I think we know that intake process, any situation where there's a long form, it sucks. The longer your form is, like the more tedious and annoying and abandoned, your higher abandonment rates. Hopefully at this point they're committed to writing with you, but there are instances, especially you see it in personal lines, for like, oh, this is a lot of work. I'm out. Um, right. But there's even more so. There's so much information that needs to be gathered. So the way that through Assembly, you're able to say like, hey, we just need to ask this, and this because we have all the other information. That's going to streamline a lot of that data collection
Yeah. Yeah, I think the intake
part of it.
process, both Canopy and Assembly, you guys are able to pull a lot of that policy detail, what's going to be on the policy, and then with Assembly intakes, you're able to really fill in the gaps. I know someone asked a question about how Assembly can be helpful with supplemental applications, and one of the ways you can do that, of course, you can pull a lot of really great data using Canopy, but sometimes there are those very niche supplemental application questions, which from there you can prepare an intake and send that out to your client to gather those pieces of information that really help to fill in the gap.
Yep. There's a question here from Stan that just popped in. He says, my understanding is that Assembly doesn't yet integrate the ACORD to our operating system, which is AMS 360. Are there plans to get that done?
So we do have a newer integration with AMS 360. So that integration is a little bit newer for us. I think we've rolled that out within the past month or so, but that is available now.
Awesome. Um, let's see here. Chris asked, is there a way through Canopy for insureds to give permission to share policy details without having that online account? I think I just covered that. They can do the document upload, or you can choose to just do that through Assembly primarily. Um, and then Patricia asks, will everyone be able to see the submission or just the person who is working on the submission? Um, from the Canopy Connect side, we have two different like definitions of submission, but from the Canopy Connect side, anyone that's can see that link or has access to that link can see the data there. I'm not sure on the Assembly side when that integration goes through.
On the assembly side, so of course, the agents working on that intake, they'll be able to see everything in the submission. But when you are sharing questions out with clients, you have two options where one, you can only choose to to send over a certain amount of questions for that client to answer. So if you want to pick out 5, 10 questions, you can just send over those questions. They won't see the rest of the submission. Or if you wanted to send over the entire submission, I know some people going through a renewal workflow will like to send over everything with some questions answered in there so that the client can verify that information hasn't changed year over year. It really just depends on what you would prefer, but you can either have them see the full submission or not.
Gotcha. Um, Shannon asked a couple questions here. So from a process standpoint, again, I think everyone's going to work a little differently, but so the insured uploads to Canopy, then we send them another link to complete the actual intake applications through Sembley. So I think that's a yes, right? You get their current insurance information and data through Canopy Connect, and then that follow-up goes um, after you've kind of gone through and figured out which ACORD forms you need and which questions and information you're missing, we send that back out to the customer for to answer those missing questions. Um, and then she asks if you already have the policies, do you go through Sembley or does it have to start in the Canopy? So you can start it. You don't have to start in Canopy. Sembley works amazingly on its own. But obviously, like our role in this integration is collecting the initial current policy information and sending that over. Um, Joseph asks, does Sembley integrate with EasyLinks?
So we do have a Zapier integration with EasyLinks with some Zaps already built out for you. So there's a workflow already in place there. But from that point, you can continue to build out as many Zaps as you like and expand to that integration. We have a lot of agencies who have built out some pretty robust integrations on top of what we already have in place.
Gotcha. And then same question for Epic. Everyone wants to know every single system.
Epic is in the pipeline for us. We should I think we can confidently say that we'll have an Epic integration in the near future.
Gotcha.
And
Um,
it does work with Hawksoft. So yes, it does.
and Hawksoft. Yeah, you guys recently rolled that out as well. And again, I invite you guys to go check out Sembley's website. I think you guys have a listing of all your current integrations, and I'm sure you'll have more as well. I mean, this is the name of the game is being able to have all this data that is floating around out there and being able to collect it and send it to the different places that you're working in. And I think you guys have been working super fast and building out more and more of these integrations, as have we. And I think that's what we need in this industry is just having our data talk to each other a little more, a little better, and to the extent we can start standardizing some of that stuff as well. I think we're all doing our parts in our different ways, but there's some bigger talks like we're working through the Big Eyes Act agencies Council for Technology and just trying to work through some of that. Those bigger industry data and connectivity questions, um, so that all this stuff just kind of works, a little more seamlessly. It makes our jobs a little easier. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
The goal is to have everything all work together eventually.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just where it's a big industry. There's a lot of players at a lot of different levels
Yeah.
um, that we're working with. Um, Celian asks, "Is this being recorded?" Yes, we're recording this. We're gonna publish it and post it, and we'll send out an email when that is available. You guys can review it all. Anything else here?
I did see someone ask, can we add sub apps to Assembly?
Yep.
That absolutely, yes, you can. So we, of course, have a library of sub apps, but as everyone here knows, there seem to be an endless amount of supplemental applications out there. So if there's ever one that you need and you can't find it in the system, we have a portal where you can send us your sup apps and we will build them into the system for you. Uh,
Awesome. And someone's asking about pricing. So I think this is a good point in the webinar where we can talk about that. I'm going to share real quick just on Canopy Connect some of our pricing and uh, information here. Um, so we've recently, I think in April, we rolled out some changes to our plans. If you are a current Canopy Connect customer and you maybe don't have access to commercial lines yet, you can switch to one of these plans. A lot of the pricing is similar, but now we give you a little bit more flexibility, whether you're using, you know, one of you do personal, you want to do commercial, we can accommodate all those and we've kind of made our plans a little bit more flexible like that. So um, we've got the scratch plans, which are for I call them for noobs, like people doing low volume. That's only personal lines right now. So I want to focus more on talking about this Elevate plan, which starts at 250 a month. You get 100 of these what we call policy points. And the way policy points works is right here, one personal line submission requires one policy points, and a commercial line submission um, requires five policy points. So you can mix and match those as you want. Whereas I think our previous plans, we had a commercial add-on plan and different bundles, and they were kind of different pools. Now they're all within this sort of policy points pool, and you can utilize those as you want. This includes 5 users. If you need more, it's $15 per additional users. We are enhancing all that property data. You get custom form builders, direct integrations with a lot of our CRM systems. With Sembley is included with it with this, and a lot of our other systems. Um, We've got an app called Policy Paste. It's a Chrome plugin that basically, once you've collected any information in Canopy Connect, you can use a little Chrome plugin. I got it up here somewhere, but basically, it's like a way to quickly paste information if you're using another application or you're kind of going directly on a carrier website quoting app, and you can paste in any collected information from Canopy Connect. And we've built it in a way that you can customize it and tune it. So if there's a carrier that you use, you can get all the mappings um, in there correctly. We've got data enrichment lookups. We pull up, up to 7 years of document history of all those PDFs and all that stuff. We do onboarding, um, one-on-one onboarding. We do drop-in trainings, all that stuff is all included here. Commercial lines access, again, includes everything that I was showing um, in our little demo earlier. So we're getting loss information, all the PDFs, all the policy information, all structured and all that stuff. So that's our sort of straightforward pricing here on the Elevate plan. If you need more, you're doing higher volume, you can move up to the Peak plan. You can talk to us, talk to our sales reps, and they can help you kind of figure out what plan will work best for you. So that's Canopy Connect pricing. Joe, I'll hand it to you to talk about what Sembley is.
and my screen here and give you guys a look. So with Assembly, we have two forms of pricing. So there is annual and then month to month. That being said, so there's no contracts. You're not locked in for a certain period of time. I always like to make that clear. So we have our standard plan, which is going to be a little bit more of a bare bones version of Assembly where you can still do your ACORDs and your sup apps, but without some of the additional tools that are going to be included in the plus, like our document AI, company enrichment, property enrichment. Those are going to be included in that plus plan. And then our pro plan is going to include some of those integrations that we have, like AMS 360, Hawksoft, Now Certs, Canopy Connect. So I'd imagine that a lot of people on this call might gear a little bit more towards the pro plan. So the pricing breakdown would be 49 a user a month on the standard, 69 a user a month on the plus, and 89 a user a month on the pro. And that is our annual, which is paid in full for the year. And of course, you get a little bit of a discount there. because on our month to month, the pricing is a little bit different. 59 for the standard, 79 for the plus, and 99 for the pro. Now, that being said, I know some people see per user and they get a little scared because they think, hey, I've got 20 people in my agency. I don't want to pay for all 20 of these people. But with Sembley here, you get full control over how many users you are going to have on the account. So if you have a 25-person agency, but only 2 people are working on that commercial side and going to be using Sembley, then 2 people would be the ideal amount for your account. And for anyone who is interested in doing a free trial of Sembley, we have a 30-day free trial where you get a whole month to test it out, play around with it, use that Canopy integration. And then for the people on this call here, you will get a 15% discount for your first 12 months. So feel free to reach out to us. Go to sembley.com, SEMBLEY, and you guys can schedule a call with us.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I'm going to drop a link here in our chat as well. This is just a little bit more information. Well, actually, I'll say it's a little less information because I think we were pretty informative here, Joe, but this is kind of a summary information that you can go to. There's a little interactive tour on there uh, that you can also click through just to, it goes over a lot of what we both covered. I don't think it goes as deeply into all the bells and whistles that Assembly does, but they've got some great videos and things on their website as well um, on how all that works. So
Yeah.
please go
And
check that out.
I'll throw
And
I'm going to throw a chat link in here for Assembly where you can go to our site and schedule a time to speak with us. Also, feel free to poke around the site, look at what we have on there, the integrations that we have available, and anything else that might interest you.
yep. And then Ryan asks, like, did I catch this correctly? We need a pro account to integrate with Canopy Connect. I believe that is a yes.
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah. So you need on the Assembly side a pro account. On the Canopy Connect side, you need to be on Elevate, or you can also be on like the Plus, any of the premium plans. If you're paying $100 a month or less, you probably don't have integrations. That's the easiest way for us to frame it. Um, and I'll be emailing out a recording and all that stuff at the end of this, or in a few hours, I suppose. Any other questions that anyone has on pricing or like, hey, I'm on a different plan and I want to get onto the new plan. Um, if you're a Canopy Connect user already, log into Canopy Connect and from the dashboard, you can open up the little chat bot in the bottom right-hand corner, talk to our support team. They can get you up to the right plan. If you have a contact information, you recently talked to one of our sales reps, you can contact them as well, and they can get you upgraded, or they can help if you need a little finesse in trying to figure out which plan is best for you, or does it make sense for you to switch plans. They can help walk you through that as well. Anyone as well can email me, ray@usecanopy.com, and I can help you get you through that as well. Joe, I think you're just Joe at
Here, it's Joseph.
Assembly, right?
I'll put that in the chat here.
We
So,
got we got easy emails.
any questions that we didn't get to, by the way, about Assembly, feel free to shoot me over an email. I'm happy to answer a question, or we could jump on a call.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us on this webinar, building out this awesome integration. I think it's gonna be super helpful for all of our users. And yeah, again, anyone has any questions, email Joe, email me, email our support team. Like we're all happy to help you guys get the most out of this. Call recording will be going out in a little bit. And so thank you so much, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ray. We really very excited about this integration and happy to jump on the webinar today. This is a great time.
Awesome. And thank you everyone for joining us. Tune in next time where both of our companies, right, we're just cranking out new integrations and features and bells and whistles. So we appreciate you guys joining us and taking the time to learn more.
Thank you,
All right.
everyone.
Bye.